Garden Express are Australia's leading mail ordering service, offering a wide range of quality gardening products. Each week on the Garden Gurus Live, the team at Garden Express will share a weekly offer. So make sure after today's show, you jump online and visit their website.
Button we press. There we go. Oh, good morning. Hello, welcome to the Garden Gurus Live. I'm Trevor Cochrane, and that's Holly Denton, who is driving the machine in the background. There's lots of, Holly's one of those interesting people. She works her way through everything. She talks it through, whether somebody's here with her or not. And I have asked if anybody talks back to her. Apparently they do. Now, we've got a great show for you today. Of course, it's brought to you by our friends at Garden Express. And I've got a terrific offer that'll be coming up for you a little bit later on in the show. I'm here to answer your questions, of course. And I've got a whole bunch of really cool little tips for you that'll sort of flow through the day. I've got my plant of the week as well. Now, what else? We've got a $50 best question Garden Express voucher. It's a gift voucher. Of course, Garden Express, great thing about this garden centre is you can shop online 24/7 when you want to do it. Doesn't matter. And of course, with a $50 gift voucher from Garden Express, what makes it even more enjoyable. And there's lots of really cool stuff on their website. Now, I do have one other prize today. I thought we'll reach into well, there we go. There we go. How's that? That's a fantastic Wolf Garden little garden kit. This is their minis, and you've got all sorts of things in there. You've got some secateurs. If you can see those somewhere in there. You've got one of these versatools. So you can see the handle is just there. And then each of these tools plug in and out of the handle. So you only need one handle. And you've got a great trowel as well. Now, we were thinking we might ask you a little quiz, a little question, something to answer. And the first person to answer it right will be the winner of that. We'll do that a bit later in the show. But I think maybe first up, we should get into some questions, or maybe we should talk about the weather. Do the weather first? Okay, sure. Perth is going to be magnificent today. Extremely concerning if you are a garden lover because it's going to be 29 and we've had no rain. It has been just terrible, but never mind. It is one of those things, unfortunately, but I think rain is on the horizon, which is really good. Adelaide 21, mostly sunny. Adelaide 21 is not so bad. Melbourne, showers increasing, maximum of 16. You are getting the rain. Hobart, maximum of 12 and showers. Canberra, mostly sunny, maximum of 19. Sydney, maximum of 23, partly cloudy. There's a shower or two in Brisbane, and it's 24 degrees in Brisbane, which is just gorgeous. And Darwin, maximum of 35, sunny. That is it. It is looking pretty good. Okay, and I'm being told that by Holly that I need to move my phone away from the microphone because it was vibrating. So yeah, there you go. That's the weather. And of course it does. It really does make a big difference. So as we move into some cooler conditions and hopefully some rain over here in the west, everything changes with regards to your garden. So things will really start to happen. Okay, now let's get into your questions because there's been a lot through the week and I think we might get those out the way first. We've got some photos coming along as well. Swapna Penjala, I hope I got that right, Swapna. Western suburbs of Sydney, you got lavender cuttings from one of your friends' gardens. Want them to go in for your house. But the question is, in summer, we get very hot, houses facing east. What do I do? Can I put them directly into the soil now? Do I have to use any rooting hormone? Yes, you should use rooting hormone. You really should grow them in a proper propagation mix. And you can get one in at your local Bunnings store. And it is a special mixture from the guys at Osmocote. But it is Osmocote, I'm pretty sure they call it propagation mix, but it's for cuttings and also growing seed. Pop them into that. They will take about, I'm going to tell you, 8 weeks to drop roots. Then gently tease them out of the soil. You can put multiple ones in the pot, by the way, and then tease them out, plant them into the ground, and with these cooler conditions, they'll take off and they'll get their roots established over the winter months. And the good news is that they love it hot. So the hotter it is, the better that will be. You need to make sure that lavender are always in full sun. Very, very important. And that they have some ventilation around them. And what I mean by that is a gap between plants. So make sure you space them out, allow them to sort of grow their full shape. If you bring them up together, they tend to get diseases and you get big dead patches in them. So if you've got that, you know what's causing it. And if you do, keep them pruned. Just keep them a little more compact. Wendy Haywood, you sent us some photos. Let's have a look. The zygo cactus is dropping buds. Why? All right. Okay. What's going on here?
See them?
Let me have a look. I can't see them. Oh, this I can. Well, they look like the flowers are actually finished. They have been open. I would say that they're flowering and dropping their flowers. I don't know that there's a real problem there. If they were dropping the buds, it'd be a little tight bud. The only reason they would do that is if the drainage in the pot was not very good and the roots were being smothered basically in water, and the tendency is then to drop flowers and buds and everything because they're basically going into shock. But I don't think that's what it is. I just think the flowers are finished. But aren't zygo cactus a great plant? It really is one that sort of went out of fashion and maybe it should be coming back because they do look great. All right, Holly, I'm going to keep rolling along because Holly likes pushing me along and I've got lots of questions. So how do I get rid of mites in my staghorns, please? Right. Mites is a bit unusual. Could only be red spider mite and you would have to spray with a systemic insecticide. There are a few of them out there. I wouldn't recommend that you smother them in white oil. It's the one thing with ferns is they do not like getting oiled. So don't do that. I would be using a systemic insecticide. There's a bunch of them. Used to be Confidor was the go-to. Of course, that has pretty much been banned or deleted these days from most of the garden centres. But the active ingredient is still found in some other sprays, and that would be my preference. I know it's not necessarily the ideal situation, but spraying it on a staghorn is not going to hurt. All right, Leah Robinson, you're in Brisbane. Leah joins us every week. Thank you. Looks like we're about to get hammered with rain again. Oh, well, a little bit of rain won't hurt. Lots of rain can be quite problematic, Leah. I know, and there has been lots in certain parts of Queensland because I've been seeing the photos and getting the questions about plants that have been suffering. It is a bit of a challenge, but hey, it's gardening. We do stuff outside and it's going to be rain, hail or shine. It's one of those. Mary Ann Perry, hello. Mary Ann, you need to make sure you tell me where you're from. In fact, everybody, please let me know your suburb and state. It really does make a big difference. But your question is, how do I keep your cat from digging? Two things. I'm not a vet, but there's two things I do know. And that one is set up a tray, a kitty litter tray for the cat to go to so that it actually knows that that's where it goes. That's the first thing. So you can encourage it to go into that direction. The second thing is if you use lemon juice and spray it around the area where the cat is going to, they don't like it. The acidic nature of the lemon juice tends to keep them away. A lot of the commercial cat repellents that you'll see out there tend to be sort of some kind of citrus-based cat repellent. So hopefully that helps. Albert Intan, hello, you sent us some photos. All right, let's have a look. What is the reason my camellia flowers fail to bloom? Produces the buds profusely, but most of them have dried and dropped to the ground. The tree's got many burnt leaves through a harsh summer, but bounced back with green leaves during the autumn. Mine is exactly the same, Albert. You've fertilized it with camellia fertilizer, and you can see them there. You know, they are forming. And then there's this brown sort of cover on the outside of the flower itself. Now that is an indication that you've got mites. And I'm going to make a guess and suggest that you're probably in the West because that horrible chili thrip that's out there is one that's been getting into buds of flowers. And I suspect that this is probably more likely chili thrip than it is a mite or anything else because the leaves look perfect. albeit new growth, I can't quite see with those photos, but albeit new growth should start to get distorted as well. Yeah, treatment, well, it's going to be a systemic insecticide. And again, I was just talking about in the old days, it would have been Confidor. I'm not sure about natural predators at this point in time. I probably should maybe get one of the experts on in that field in the next few weeks and talk about it, because that is really quite problematic. Now, the good news is colder weather controls the chili thrip. The populations will crash. So, you could maybe just in the short term give them all a spray with white oil, particularly over those buds, and hopefully it stops the damage before it's too much and the plant just sheds the bud, because it's never going to open properly. So hopefully, Albert, that gives you a bit of insight, but it looks to me like you got chili thrip. Chrissy at Henry's. Hello, Chrissy. I know you're moving pretty soon. Now, let me tell you, let me have a look at what you've said. I've sent it a few pics of my huge box tree. It is 60 plus years old, showing signs of dying. The great news is the council came out and spread 1,000 litres of nutrients directly to the roots. It's going to survive. Unfortunately, you didn't send those photos, so we can't share that. But that is good news, and I'm surprised. The nutrients are probably something like sea salt. That is one of the best treatments for things like, particularly large mature trees that are suffering with any kind of root shock at all over Perth. It's a news story as far as I'm concerned. It is so bad. Mature eucalypts are dying in bushland. In fact, mature plants, full stop, are dying everywhere because the groundwater has dropped so low now that the roots aren't in there and the trees are shocking. We're getting 29-degree days. The only thing that's going to bring some of those back when we do get some rain and, of course, the water table lifts a bit is going to be putting a bit of sea salt on and trying to stimulate some root growth recovery. It's a really big problem. So, Chrissy, I reckon that's what council have done for you. You probably would have smelt it as well, I would have thought. Jasmine Hunter. Hello, Jasmine. I have a question about a jarrah tree die-off in the southwest of WA due to the drought conditions. I was just talking about it. She's got bees, and this season the jarrah trees produced a lot of nectar. Did the trees know that the drought conditions were coming and have high nectar production to encourage the bees to help them? Obviously, the flowers to be pollinated and seed to be produced. It's a really interesting. It's a really interesting thing, because I suspect that you are 100% on the money, and that is that trees can anticipate what is going on. Now, they might not know what the pending weather conditions are going to be like, but they would be very conscious of the soil moisture content levels. And if the water table is dropping, those levels will be dropping. The tree will be sensing it. And the very first thing that they tend to do is they shed leaves. But they also go into masses of flower, and it's because they're producing seed. And of course, that seed is hopefully for landing on the ground, and if the tree does die, for new ones to emerge and the forest to continue. It's the beautiful thing about Mother Nature. But yeah, this tree die-off generally across Western Australia, and particularly around the Perth metropolitan area, is horrendous. It's a really scary thing to see so much damage. Yeah, all right, let's just keep going. Diana Rosgas, I hope I got that right. Diana, you are in Perth. What was the name of the tree on the show this morning? You said it tasted like a cherry. I think that might have been what we call the Brazilian cherry. I've actually got two in my garden, and they both actually have the same common name. Grumachama is one of them. It's a little black. It's got quite a thick skin, and to be quite honest, it's probably closer to a lychee than it is to a cherry in its flavour, but it is delicious and it grows really well here. So there's two of them, the Brazilian cherry and the Grumachama, which is also sometimes called a Brazilian cherry. They're both South American subtropical trees. They grow really well places like Perth, even into the southwest of WA. I've seen them growing in Albany. And then, of course, on the east coast, probably Melbourne might be a challenge, but everything pretty much above will be fine. They will grow in Adelaide. I do know that. We have a little bit of glitching going on, don't we? It looks like our internet's being a little difficult. All right. How are we looking? Hopefully that's okay. because I can see it's all staggered and not working too well. That's a bit unfortunate. Tell us, is it all okay? Yep, everybody's giving us the thumbs up. Thank you very much, everybody. Okay, let's keep rolling along. So basically, yeah, I think it's the Groomer Charmer or the Brazilian Cherry. Check it out on our website. It will be on the fact sheet as well, by the way. Jez Barnes, hello, Southern Midlands, Tasmania. You sent us some photos. Let's have a look. The last 6 months, I've got some kind of rust. I think you could advise on how to treat them. Let's have a look at this photos. Oh, yeah, does look a little bit like rust, and I can't quite tell. Yeah, now that actually could be a little bit of phosphorus poisoning. Have you been using a general fertilizer, Jez? Because bankshires are particularly sensitive to it. And that does look a little bit like that. I don't think it's rust. It'd be very rare that a bankshire would suffer from rust.
It's just glitchy. It's going slow. It's making the computer go slow.
Oh dear.
Yes.
We're having a few problems here. I mean, this is all about keeping Holly on her toes. That's all it is. Whilst Holly's troubleshooting, okay, let's have a look at that. Yeah, that definitely does look a little bit rust-like. Now, look, rust can be treated. It is a fungus and it's a fungal disease, and that does actually look like rust, weirdly. So my recommendation when it comes to treating rust is a little bit different to probably what a lot of mainstream people would suggest, and that is that I recommend that you get two fungicides and you alternate sprays every second week. For about 4 weeks. So, at least 2 sprays, ideally 4 sprays, and that will really clean them up. Hopefully that helps. Very unusual to see that. Thanks, Jez. Gail Russell, you're in Brisbane. Hello. Got a passion fruit vine. It's growing like crazy. No flowers or fruiting. And it's only been in the ground for 6 months. Do they fruit first year? Yeah, they can do. And particularly if it's a grafted tree, it could fruit in the pot, basically. It's highly likely, if it's growing like crazy, that it's just doing the right thing and just getting established, which means your first crop should be a pretty darn good crop. One of the tricks with passion fruit is sometimes they will produce lots and lots of growth and not a lot of flower and subsequently fruit. And that's because you're using a fertilizer that's very high in nitrogen, which will affect them. It'll encourage them to grow foliage but not flowers. So just to make you conscious of that. Make sure you've got a fruit and flower promoting fertilizer. That's really important. Okay, Gail, that was you. Let's have a look here. Consuelo Gonzalez, hello. Let's have a look here. What do we got? We got some photos. My Morea paniculata. It's not going good. Can we have a look here, Holly? Oh, Holly, can I have a look at that photo on a bigger screen, because that just does not look good. That looks to me like you might have a severe aphid infestation.
Hold on.
Going? It's okay. Holly's helping me out here. I think it's my eyesight's going in my old age.
Can you see that?
I can see that. Are you able to click on that?
Yeah, I just don't want to slow down the thing.
Maybe that's what's causing it. Yeah, we'll just have a look at the photo. It looks to me like you've got a severe aphid infestation, which, if it is, you can treat this quite easily. So you can see them there. You can see the mature adults, and then you can see all the little babies. This is a suggestion that you've probably got very, very soft foliage, which I'm going to tell you that you need to spray the aphids, obviously, to get control. But the reason why it's like that is really interesting. Now, it could be one of two things. Not enough full sun, so it's in a shaded position, or alternatively, you're feeding it with a very high high nitrogen fertilizer, which is encouraging lots of growth, a bit like what we were talking about before with the passion fruit. Now, when you get all that soft growth, it's soft and succulent. Aphids can get into it, and they love it. It's absolutely fantastic for them. So, what we need to do is probably change your fertilizer to something that's a little bit more phosphorus and potassium based, get more of a balance. So you're looking for something that's a little bit more like a flower promoting fertilizer. I think that's the recommendation I'll give you. It's interesting. Thanks for sending the photos. They really do help. I wouldn't have been able to guess that without seeing them. Leah Verrill, hello. We're doing a lot of questions in Brisbane, which is fantastic. Can I mention a few plants that like full shade, please? One of my favourites at the moment in my garden is, and it's not because they're in flower, because then they're not. They'll come into flower in early spring. But it's the kaffir lily, or it's best known as that probably, or the fire lily. It's one of those really interesting plants that produce these magnificent orange, and you can get yellow and cream flowers as well. But it's just got this beautiful dark broad leaf, and it's absolutely fantastic. So yeah, I would suggest that that's probably one. Going across the range, of course, there's such a different choice of things. You could go for foliage plants, things like your miniature umbrellas, and in Brisbane, you could be doing things like crotons, for example, or even coleus as far as foliage plants go. Probably one of the most beautiful of all is, of course, bromeliads. So there's a whole bunch of different things you can grow that do really well in those shady spots. But yeah, I think it just depends on how big and how much coverage you want. And do you want them clumping, or do you want a single sort of beautiful plant? There are so many options for you. Hopefully that helps a bit. Anyway, Vinette Ainsberg, hello. Now, Vinette is over here in Western Australia in a beautiful suburb called Balladura. I've got a few sting marks that are oozing on my Rangpur lime. Is this fruit fly? And what can I do for it next time? Now, that's a really good question. I wanted to show you, this is my citrus is my fruit of the day. I just want to show you that. Can you see the green rings there? Now, this fruit was attacked by a fruit fly, but it didn't get through the skin. It's not inside the fruit, but they had a red hot shot at it. And this just happens to be an imperial mandarin, but the skin's very, very hard. These are really nice, solid fruit. Generally, citrus will keep fruit fly away. You do get some fruit fly sting, but not too much. What I would suggest you do is just have a bit of a think about the baits. There's fruit fly spray, or there's a fruit fly bait which you can kind of mix up and paint on the stem of the plant. It's really interesting, but controlling fruit fly is really, really important, because it doesn't just affect you, it affects all of your neighbours and the whole neighbourhood, which I think is something that we've all got to be conscious of as responsible gardening citizens in our area. Fruit fly is a significant problem. The good news is cold weather will help control, particularly the Queensland fruit fly. Basically knocks it completely out. But yeah, that's where we are at. I might go straight to the fruit pick that you saw early on. I don't know whether you saw that picture. That was like a work of art. And that's something that Holly is very proud of. She took that photo and has been admiring it constantly. I think it's probably her screensaver now. Now, I've got this, and I've got these guys, of course, as the first one. Citrus, really, prominent at the moment in home gardens. Limes, all of my limes are coming through. I've got Tahitian lime. I've got, what have I got? I've got the Tahitian. I've got a little native lime, a little round native lime, and I've got, of course, the oblong forms as well. And then I've got a West Indian lime, which is a little round, very juicy one, which are exceptionally good. These are all great plants to be growing this time of the year. One of the things is the fruit should be pretty much mature in its size, and this is a good time for you to actually feed your tree. In fact, if you feed it with a citrus food right now, what you will do is you will sweeten the fruit just slightly, and you'll make sure that the tree is ready to go, because it'll produce flower basically as soon as you pick the fruit. So little tips there. Citrus are my fruit of the day at the moment. I think probably of all the mandarin varieties, my favourite would be this one, being Imperial. It's absolutely delicious. I'm going to get Holly to try this one. Here it goes. Holly, there we go. She'll tell us whether it's delicious or not. But this one's a bit of a different orange. And when I cut it open, what do you notice about it? It's not orange, it's red. Now, why is it red? Now, it is red because it's a blood orange. And they tend to be a little more sour. I can just hear this slurping and slobbering going on the other side. I think the mandarin must be okay.
Very good.
Okay, very good. Got to go very good. And try that. How is that, Holly? Is that good? Bit more sour than a sweet orange.
I like it. I like sour.
Well, these are really nice fruit. They really are delicious, and they're so good as desserts. And I'm going to give you a little suggestion. And
It's really good.
you're gonna sort of shake your head and go, what? And it's a Nev Passmore trick. But you slice your blood oranges, and then you crack black pepper over the top, and you serve it with vanilla ice cream. And the combination of flavors is unbelievable and incredibly good for you too. Well, sort of. As long as you're having the orange, I suppose it's particularly good. There is one more fruit I wanted to talk about, and apples. We're picking apples at the moment, and I wanted to ask you, what is that variety of apple? Do you know that one? It's one that's setting the world alight at the moment. I might give it away a little bit. Overseas, it's known as Solaire, but that's not what's known as here. Whoever gets it right, I will give you the accolades. Now, there's a very important lesson I want to share with you, and you may have heard me talk about this before. There was a fantastic body of research done by the Royal Perth Hospital Trust or Foundation, and it was on apples. There was a 10,000 person women actually study, and the interesting thing about this particular study was 5,000 were given a deep red apple like this one, and 5,000 were given a green apple. And the biggest killer of women in Australia is heart disease, or it's hypertension, which has got nothing to do with their husbands or their partners, but certainly a huge amount to do with a bit of a vulnerability. So heart disease, high blood pressure, stroke, all of those things are really significant problems health-wise for women. When they checked the women with the one red apple, ideally the deeper the red, the better, they found that their levels were significantly lower, and their risk as such was significantly lower. So I suppose the risk of dying is reduced dramatically. So what I'm saying to you ladies out there is that you need to make sure that you have got yourself some fantastic red apples. They really are so good for you, and it's really important for your health. So do that. And gentlemen, we'll talk about tomatoes another time. In fact, right now you could be talking about tamarillos because they're a very high source of lycopene, and lycopene is a very important thing for male prostate health. We'll talk about that. Okay, shall we answer? The question, of course, was, what is that apple? That apple, congratulations, Fiona Goodrich, bravo. It is a bravo apple. Well done. So we'll be sending that off to you. You'll need to send your details to Holly as a private message. Congratulations, that's sensational. Right, I think what we'll do before I answer your questions, and there's a heap of them. But before we get to that, let's go and talk about the Garden Express deal. Holly, have we got the clip to play? We have. How about we play that first?
It sounds like a bit of an oxymoron, doesn't it? And perhaps a few of us gardeners are a little bit reticent about. Can you really ship plants and bulbs around that well? Can you get a 100% guarantee on a website? Can you speak to a real person, indeed a horticulturalist, for advice and updates? To be fair, I used to think exactly the same. But don't be afraid of the brave new world of ordering plants online. Let me introduce you to the amazing company leading the way and whose name has become synonymous with guaranteed quality, reliability, plus amazing support services for online plant purchases. So Chloe, can you show us an example of this wonderful packaging of yours?
I can. So most of our plants are sent out in blister packs like this. This is to ensure that they're nice and safe when they get to you.
Yep.
As you can see, they're nice and secure. So we pop a little bit of foam on top, and this makes sure that the soil is nice and secure. Then we pop them into these recyclable plastic shippers. That makes sure that the plants are nice and secure and safe. Then we pop them into the box and we can ship then anywhere in Australia.
It's so impressive. This is a serious service by the 4th generation Van Berkel family, and one we can all take heart in. A couple of things that really stand out here when you stick your beak around is the amazing quality and care given to packaging. And secondly is this, lovely human beings answering your phone calls, answering your emails. You're getting horticultural advice and customer service just like you would at any other good garden centre. So you can be confident in ordering online 24/7 from this lovely 4th generation family business.
This is the heart of the operation of Garden Express, the dispatch centre where we do our picking, packing, got all of our orders here ready to go to customers, boxing it up, ready to go out through Australia Post, all across the country. All you have to do is place your order online and then we'll handle everything from there. So if you're in a quarantine state, we'll do all the paperwork, we'll do all the dipping and spraying and get that delivered to you quite easily.
Okay, Dave, I hear we've got a really special bag.
Mate, this is the Garden Guru's show bag with 170 of our favourite spring flowering bulbs for only 29 bucks.
170.
170 bulbs, mate. It's a lot of planting. Daffodils, Tritelia, ranunculi, anemones, all the favourite ones, mate.
Wow. Well, I think I'm going to take that one off you, but all of you at home, just jump onto gardenexpress.com.au and you can get yours today.
Well, I've got to tell you, I don't think I've seen anybody enjoy eating a mandarin quite like Holly. She's been just loving it. Very good. Is there anything better, Holly? I don't think so. Garden Express have got this amazing deal, and you saw that Simon did such a terrific job just showing what a great family business this is and what goes on behind the scenes. It's really quite fascinating. This week, we had a problem last week, and I do have to apologise, but because of a news event, the Garden Gurus got knocked back about 3 weeks ago. Channel 9 have been replaying. So we've been a week out of order. Now, what that meant was we ended up in a situation where the Garden Express spring bulb show bag was actually missed. It was actually a really interesting sort of glitch that we had. So it's been fixed and we now have those bags ready for you. Now, if you remember the deal, we're talking with Rowan about it last week, 170 bulbs. There's 9 varieties. It's valued at $106.80. Now, the big deal about this is it's only $29. $29. And there was very, very limited stock. So I've got to suggest to you that you do jump online and buy them. It included things like daffodils, Dutch iris, anemones, Spanish bells, Tritelia, Tritonia, freesias, which have been really quite rare and difficult to get hold of, ranunculi and hyacinths. It's a great deal, but it is limited. So please jump online, gardenexpress.com.au, only while stocks last. Good luck. Because they will go. In fact, I should have got on before, but never mind. I think they'll all be gone by the time we finish the show. Jeannie Napier sent us some photos. Let's have a look, Jeannie, and see what you've sent us. I'm just going to move across here. Oh, looking good. I can't tell you what it is though, because I need it to be bigger, I think, Holly. Do you think you could blow that up? Gee, I'm really showing my age here, I know. Oh, this is the Mona lavender. Okay, so this isn't actually a lavender as such. The common name is Mona lavender, but it is a beautiful plant, and you've got the most compact form. I think the angle you're shooting the shot from is what threw me. But it is a really beautiful plant, and Mona lavender is something you'll find in garden centres right now, in flower, looking just like that. If you love the lavender colour, this is one of the very best you can get. All right. Let's keep rolling along. Oh, he's a mate. Hello, Lewis Sugar. He's He's a neighbour actually up in Kalamunda, but a very talented man in other ways as well. We've worked together on some landscape design projects in the past. What's a good hedging camellia? Good question, mate. First thing I would say to you is that most of the sasanquas are used for hedging. They are probably the very best you're going to get. There are a bunch of different types of sasanquas. Pretty much everything that comes from the Paradise collection, I would be thinking, yes, go for them. But the one thing you need to do is there is variation in size and height. So I would suggest you make sure you use one variety so you end up with a consistent colour as far as your hedge goes. And what can I do about kangaroos eating absolutely everything and anything that you plant apart from the fencing? Everything else has gone off. Okay, well, kangaroos are quite problematic, and I have had this situation myself up in the hills, mate. It's not, you're not unique. They do a fair bit of damage, but they come and go from mine. And the reason they go is because I do a mixture of white pepper and chili crushed. Just put a little bit of white oil in there, probably ideally. Shake it and spray it on the boundary fence, spray it on the plants that are on the boundary. And what you'll hear is when they come over and they start nibbling on things, they'll start sneezing. It gets, irritates their nose and their mouth. They'll drool if they don't stop doing it. They'll drool, but they will actually move away. They won't want to hang around very much there, and they'll just stand off and they won't eat your favourite plants. Usually it's just nibbling off the new growth, but on things like roses and things like that, that's of course all your flowers. So that's probably the best way to do it. Hopefully that helps you, Lewis. Thanks for joining us. It's good to have you on the show with us. Lynn Menadue Ryan. Hello, Lynn. I'm not sure where you are, but your question is, could you please advise what would be the best Triforte fertiliser for my garden that has gardenias, little gem magnolias, Morea hedge, rain crocus, agave, lamandra, all in the same garden? I'd be going for the flower promoting version of it. So that is, I think it's for roses, azaleas and camellias, or azaleas, roses, camellias, but it is their flower version. So you'll see it on the label. You can't miss it. It's really good. And to be quite honest, I've been cheating a little bit. I've been using a little bit of that on some of my edibles as well. And it's as good as their edible version. It's a really good, good fertilizer. So hopefully that helps you with that. Let's keep rolling along. And there are lots of questions, including one from Val, who's Holly's mum. Hi, Val. What's the name of the snail plant that smelt really nice the other week, and where can I grab one? Okay, so that is called the snail creeper. Phaseolus caracalla, I think they call it these days. It is the blue flowering snail creeper. It's a larger flower. It's incredibly fragrant. Probably going to find it in your local Waldex store, I'm going to suggest. I'm not sure of who else would have them. Depends where's your mum, Holly? Where does she live? Woodvale. Okay, yeah, I would say your local Waldex. I think there's one not too far around the corner. So stick your head into that one and have a bit of a look. And of course, with those sorts of things, if they don't have it there on the day, more often than not, they'll know where they are, so they'll track them down for you. So always ask. All right, Mary Razunek Hurts. Oh God, I've completely blown that out of the water. I'm sorry, Mary. You've sent a pic. We're going to have a look at this. Okay. The question is, my lily pillies aren't growing well. The leaves are drooping off and curling. I've had them in the ground for a few years. All right. Now, I've got to tell you, they don't look happy. They just don't look happy. And the funny thing about lily pillies is that really what you've got to do with them is feed them. Encourage lots and lots of growth. It does look like it's a more compact form. The leaf curling is undoubtedly caused by a pest. There's no question about that. You can fix that very quickly by using a quick spray of pest oil or eco oil or one of those horticultural oils. Drench underneath the leaves. So just get your sprayer and turn it upside down, spray up under the plant, and that'll get into any of the pests that could be. It could be one of several things there. That's why I'm suggesting a general treatment. But feeding's the key. That's what's going to make a big difference for you. Hopefully, Mary, that helps. And I do apologise if I didn't get your name right. It's a little more challenging than the average one. Lynn Winstanley. Hello, Lynn is a good friend of ours. Can you identify this plant for my 90-year-old dad, please? Okay, thinks it's a coral cactus, but it doesn't have a tag. Can you advise how he looks after it, please? Let's have a look at that. Oh, again, do you reckon you could blow that one up for me, Holly? Because it's a little picture on a little screen. It does look very much like a cactus, and I think it's an opuntia, which is the same family as the prickly pear, but it looks to me like it might have something they call fasciation. It looks all twisted and gnarled, and that is usually it's a virus that causes that. It can be a thrip or a little mite that gets into the growth stem and causes that twisting, but it doesn't look like it's actually unwell. Definitely not a coral cactus. I feel pretty confident about that. So hopefully that helps a little bit. It looks to me like it is one of the opuntias, but yeah, with a little fasciation through it, so causing that twisting and gnarling, and it might keep it at that kind of size. It might never grow too much bigger than that. It's quite interesting. I need to have another look at that photo a bit later on. Christine Rankin, staying here in Perth at the moment. I'm sorting through lots of bromeliads at the moment, and I noticed I need to repot a dwarf lime. Is now a good time to repot the lime? If it's finished flowering and fruiting, absolutely. Perfect time to do it. In fact, citrus should be planted in May. That's the general rule right across Australia. So yeah, Christine, go for it. Why not? And I did see some photos of yours on Facebook with bromeliads all being cleaned up and prepared. It's the time to get them there, and you've sort of inspired me. I probably need to do it with some of mine at home as well. Keith Rodrigo, my bougainvillea. Now, you're in Moorebank in New South Wales. My bougainvillea is quite healthy, has orange flowers. From time to time, we see just one flower, completely pink or reddish. Does that mean it's a grafted tree? Only one flower, though, is different. The rest of the tree has orange flowers. Now, this is what they call sporting. So this is where there's a little bit of genetic instability in the plant. And one of the original parents was probably one called Mary Palmer, which is a pink. And the orange you've got, I suspect, they would have been cross-pollinated at some point. It's probably one of the new varieties out there. But every once in a while, it'll throw a stem or there'll be a limb that grows out, and it is reflective of one of the parents, and it'll produce their pure colour, which is that pinky red colour you're talking about. So I think that's what's going on. It's not an unusual thing, not an unusual thing at all, to be quite honest, with things like bougainvilleas. Interestingly enough, if you have a look at where that stem's growing, if you take a cutting of that and plant it in the ground, it's likely it will only grow and produce pink flowers. You'll end up with, it reverting back to the original parent plant. Sometimes this happens with variegated plants, and the green will start growing from a little patch. And eventually, because green has more chlorophyll than a variegated part of that citrus, it could actually start to take over, and eventually you lose that variegation. It's really interesting. Okay, let's have a look here. I think Holly's pretty impressed with the questions. We have got some very interesting questions. She said a very interesting variety of questions this morning. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Holly. Holly's really enjoying this. We'll do a little test with her later on and see how many things she remembers. Kayleen Harding, hello. You're in Brisbane, an hour out of Brisbane. What's the best natural product to use on your Tahitian lime? It has black sooty mold on it. And can you still eat the limes? Yes, you can eat the limes. The black sooty mold is what they call a saprophytic fungus. It's not parasitic. It's not eating the plant. It's eating a sugary substance that's left on the foliage. You'll often hear me talk about the relationship of ants and scale. And what happens is scale is a pest insect. It sucks on the sap, and it emits a little sucrosy substance called honeydew. Now that is then consumed by ants who protect the scale from predators. So it's a symbiotic relationship. Now what happens is the ants gorge themselves on it and they get covered in it. As they move around the plant, they keep spreading that high sugary substance over the top. And that's where this fungus comes in. and it's eating the sugars. Now, the more activity of ants, the more the fungus spreads. And of course, this is what's going on. So the trick really here is to get rid of the scale, get rid of the ants. Way to do it, spray the tree itself with, again, probably horticultural oils, any of them, eco oil, they all seem to be pretty much the same when it comes to getting control of the scale. It smothers them, but get control of that. Then get yourself some talcum powder, and around the base of the tree, just go and spread quite a thick layer, probably about, I'm going to tell you 100 mils, maybe that much around in a circle around the outside. Now, the ants won't cross that talcum powder. It gets into their joints and they hate it and makes them feel uncomfortable. So it won't cross over. And that stops them from getting up into the plant to protect the scale and to move it around and farm it, which is actually what they do. And this breaks the cycle. So it's quite an interesting, interesting sort of thing that's going on there. Kayleen, I hope that that really did answer your question. It's really quite complex, but getting control of the scale is the key. I reckon that could be the question of the day. That's a ripper. Sandy Jewell, you're in Brisbane. We're really getting a lot of questions out of Brisbane, which is awesome. We've got a mandarin tree at our community garden. All the fruit's very dry. What a waste. What do we do to ensure it improves next year? Now, this is a really common problem with plants that are being stressed. So that dryness in the fruit is an indication that the plant has been through some kind of dry stress at some stage of the fruit development. So making sure that the moisture is kept up to it, and probably giving it a feed at the moment. Pick all that fruit off and give it a good feed and encourage it to grow. It's more this thing of moisture consistency in the soil than lots of water or not enough water. If you don't have that consistency and it dries out, you'll literally see it reflected in the fruit. It'll still produce fruit. It's just not juicy. It tends to have big dry patches in it, but it'll still have that seed in there, and the tree is trying to survive and get its way through. So hopefully that helps. Alyssa, staying up in Queensland. Now, this is a big question, and again, probably another potential question of the day. How can I encourage my banksia to flower? It's a shrub size rather than a tree size variety. It's been in the ground for nearly 2 years. Great growth, well over 1 metre tall and wide, but no flowers. You're living on the Sunshine Coast. You've got clay soil, but the soil has been completely broken up with an auger, and then lots of gypsum, compost, rock minerals and fertiliser. Man, you've done the job. That's fantastic. So the soil's really quite a good soil. And the plant's been planted in 200 millimetre high raised garden bed on top of that originally corrected clay. This is absolutely fantastic what you've done. You've really done the work on composting, ensuring that you're getting that soil open and airy, because it's really important to understand that air to the roots is very important to the health of the plant. Healthy roots, of course, and your plant will look fantastic. If it's compacted, if the water is sodden, if the soil is sodden and saturated, the roots will become sick and it'll be reflected in the plant. And banksias, of all the plants in the world, do not like it. Now, you've put in fertilizer, controlled release fertilizer, you've mulched again, you have added liquid seaweed solution, and you mulch every 6 months. And you're frustrated, right? There's an at the end of this. It's a big, long question. But here's the thing about banksias. They don't need any extra love. They just need to be left to grow. In fact, if you put lots of nutrients in, as long as they're not the wrong nutrients, you're going to find the plant will grow and grow and grow, produce lots of lovely foliage, look really good and healthy, but not flower. And that is what's going on here, because it doesn't need to. At the moment, it doesn't feel like it needs to reproduce. So when you're in difficult times, you tend to reproduce lots and lots and lots of plants. When things are lush and healthy, the plant tends to grow. If it's got all the nutrients, it tends to really be sort of full of foliage and looking healthy, but just not flowering. Back off the fertilizer, back off the water, and you'll find it'll go into flower. Now's the time to do it, because now's when they're setting their flowers. And I'll promise you, come springtime, if you do what I said, you'll be getting flowers. Spring, early summer, it'll come into flower. Christine McCormack, it is an amazing bold deal. But Christine, let me tell you something. If you don't jump online pretty much straight away, they will be sold out. I guarantee you. And she said she's going to be grabbing one, maybe two, if allowed. I'll let you go for it. Jill Condon, hello, Jill. Is it too early to prune hydrangeas in Melbourne? No, it's not. It's probably the perfect time now, Jill. I'm actually looking at mine at home. They're probably about a month off in Perth. We're still so warm here, but you are a lot cooler, so it's a good time to be actually getting into it and cutting back. Ross Pettigrew is in Townsville in Queensland. I think Queensland wins the vote for the most number of questions this week. You really are on board, guys. Thank you very much. Ross, your question, I'm planting out my root veggie garden bed tomorrow. What's the best fertilizer for root veggies? I know to avoid something with high nitrogen. That's really good. That's great. So that was really the key. Anything that's got a very high K number. So there's a whole bunch of different types of fertilizers. I think I might have had one sitting around here somewhere, but I've lost it. But that I was going to show you. But there is a product that's specifically designed for root vegetables. It's sold as potato E manure, or in some places potato D manure. But it's a fertilizer that is used to encourage very strong root growth and not a lot of foliage. So the lower the number of nitrogen, as far as the NPK ratio goes, and the higher the K, the better the result will be for you. Hopefully that helps. Stu Will, in Adelaide, hello. Is it all right to repot at the moment? Now's a great time to repot everything except for tropical plants. Okay, so if you've got tropical indoor plants, if you've got tropical fruit, any of those plants that come from a warm climate, not good to do any sort of repotting and risk damaging roots this time of the year, because they're not going to grow very much through the winter months. But when you get into the warm weather, that's when you do those. Everything else, now is the time to be repotting. Kalamunda Garden Festival, these two of my favourite people. They really appreciate you doing these live chats. So wonderful, really helpful. So grateful for your time. You're just such lovely people, you guys. Big kisses to you, hugs. Thank you very much for your support too. Sue Jones, I'm in the outer northern eastern suburbs of South Morang in Melbourne. Got a lemon tree in a half wine barrel, but it's looking very yellow at the moment. I fed it with Harry's citrus food about 6 weeks ago, and you've used liquid food every 1 to 2 weeks since. Is this the way it looks okay? I think that's what you've asked. But look, you know what you've done is actually perfectly good, Sue. Specialised citrus fertiliser, probably a fast release just at the moment. The reason it's yellow is because it's in a contained soil mass. The roots would have taken a lot of goodness out. And every time they produce big crops, just think about this. If you took the fruit out and you picked it all and you weighed it, about 80% of it is moisture. Then the rest of it is fiber and nutrients and minerals and all the things that it took out of the soil. Now, if you weighed it and you said, look, I got 10 kilos of fruit, that means there's 2 kilos of goodness taken out of that soil. It's hard to kind of get your head around, but you do need to be replacing that. And that's done through regular, steady feeding, not big bursts of fertilizer all at once. So just feed in about 6 weeks. In fact, to be honest, if you're 6 weeks ago, I'd give it another shot with Harry's citrus food. I don't know Harry's citrus food, but I'm sure it's a good blend designed for citrus. But yeah, you can't go wrong. You just need to feed them. They are really what we call in the trade gross feeders. They love a regular supply of food, and the more food you give them, along with moisture, the more they'll grow, and generally the more they'll produce. Diana Rusgus, I hope I got that right. The good thing is, Diana, you told me you're in Perth. Why did my woolly bush get to about 3 meters and then die? Not overwatered, 2 years old. You have got your 9 tenths, I reckon I'm right here. You've got a soil-borne fungus called Phytophthora. Now, Phytophthora is commonly known as root rot, and woolly bush are particularly susceptible to it. The only other thing that I can think of with woolly bush that sometimes can affect them is they love deep sandy soils. But if you put in heavy soils, it's not, it's not good for them. Their roots get saturated and they really start to go off. So, hopefully it's not the phytophthora, because there's really not a lot you can do about it. You're probably better to grow them in pots, Diana, if you really love them. They do make a wonderful Christmas tree, by the way. We've only got 5 minutes to go. Holly's rung the bell. Paulie Michaelatis, hello, Paulie. How you going, mate? We got a fruit fly on our young mandarin tree this year. It does occur with mandarins. I actually had it on one of my Japanese mandarins, and I reckon I lost the best part of the fruit, which breaks your heart. What is a good treatment that we can use for next year? It's a combination treatment. So a trap, you can get the fruit fly traps. Those usually they're yellow containers. Get those. There's a bait that goes in that, and the fruit fly will fly to that. You can get those sticky traps. Now there's frames to stop, other animals, insects and lizards and things like that coming in contact and getting stuck. They're really good. And let me think, what else? What's the third thing? Oh, and there is a bait that you can paint on as well. Yates fruit fly spray is something you can spray as well over the fruit once it's formed. But here's the thing. Here's the one take home I will give you for today that hopefully you never forget. Fruit fly are colorblind. They only see a small range of colors. In the bands of the yellows, oranges, and reds, they see those. And also blue of all colors, but they see blue. Now, the interesting thing about it is that if they see that color, they'll fly to it and they'll sting. But when the fruit's green, you won't get any stinging, right? It's only when the fruit starts to change color that you need to think about treating for fruit fly. And once that it's changing, and it doesn't need to change a lot, it's just a shade of orange, you have to be treating. Whether it's baits, whether it's the combination I've suggested, or whether it's sprays, you have to do something about it. Paulie, I hope that helps, mate. Australia Garden, g'day, how you going? Now let's have a look here. Got a few blue-banded bees. I spotted some in my garden too. What's a few more flowering Aussie plants to give them a feed? So I've got grevilleas in my garden, and that's where I've seen them. They're really active around the grevilleas. So there's these amazing new varieties that have been bred by the guys from Kings Park, and they are making a massive flower at the moment, and it seems to be that the blue banded bees really like that. I'm not sure what else they're doing. The interesting thing about them is I've spotted them drilling little holes in sandstone at the moment in some steps in my garden, and they look like they're starting to nest in there. The blue banded bee is an Australian native bee, and it's a solitary bee, absolutely beautiful little plant, really lovely. Now I'm getting the wind up, so I'm going to answer one more question. Sandy Jewell. Okay, Sandy, we talked earlier on. You're in Brisbane. You've got a jade creeper. It's been in since last summer, just over 12 months. Will it flower? If it's the jade creeper I'm thinking of, I hope so. I wish I could grow that in my garden. It is absolutely beautiful, if it's what I think you're talking about. The question about it, it's been in since last summer, just over 12 months. You're in Brisbane. I reckon the second 12 months is when it will flower. And off the top of my head, and I'm really going off my knowledge in Singapore, they tend to flower in the dry season, which would be roughly what you're going into. So maybe you'll see in the next few months some signs of flower. But I think it's typically like about a 2-year-old mature tree, vine, before it really starts to produce flowers. But absolutely stunning, guys. Google that one, the jade flower. Absolutely gorgeous. Okay, take a deep breath. Holly's been typing madly, and I think her fingers are down to the knuckles now. She's been going so crazy. There's so many questions come in, and I'm really sorry if I didn't answer yours today. The good news is we are back next week, and I will answer it. I may be doing it remotely. I've got a funny feeling I'm going to be away. Anyway, if I'm away, we'll certainly ask my good friend Darren Senor in, but I'm hoping I can make this work and we can answer all your questions. A big congratulations to Kayleen Harding. You are our competition winner today, a $50 gift voucher from Garden Express. You can go online, gardenexpress.com.au, shop from the comfort of your armchair 24/7. And the great thing about it is they deliver direct to your doorstep. It's absolutely brilliant. Congratulations, Kayleen. That's really good. Just please send Holly a private message with your email address, and we will send that through. And Fiona, congratulations again. Please make sure you send us your details, because you've got this amazing Wolf garden kit coming your way. There you go. That's our prizes for the day. Folks, please do us a big favour. It really does help us a lot if you hit like. What that does is it shares, the algorithm shares with all of your friends. We get more people follow the show, and that really helps us as well. And let's face it, the more diverse the questions, the more of us that participate, the more we learn. We're a very, very interesting little community here. We're back next week. We've got another great show here live on Facebook. Tomorrow, The Garden Gurus is on Channel 9 at 4:30 p.m. Doesn't matter where you are in Australia, you'll be able to enjoy it. There's some really good stories coming up. We've only got a couple more episodes. I think tomorrow's at 11, we've got 12 and 13. So we're just about at the end of the season. Make sure you check these shows out. They are really good gardening shows, and all the team have a lot of fun. In fact, Nigel's completely out of control at the moment with his jokes. He's just giving me a really hard time. So have a look. Tell me what you think of Nigel's unique sense of humour. Now, if you want to know anything more, you can always visit our website. It's a great resource. Of course, you can also watch any of the stories that we do on the TV show. There's a huge collection of them, all on our YouTube channel, thegardengurus.tv. That is it for the day. I think I've just about run out of voice, and I think I've answered a lot of questions. I hope you enjoyed today's show, and thank you so much for your support and for joining us. Big thank you to Holly, who's done an awesome job in here again today. And both of us will see you next week for another great session of the Garden Gurus Live. I'm Trevor Cochrane. We'll see you then.